Hey everyone, it's Katie here again at Bobby Hair Studio, and today I'm going to show you how I update a brunette balayage with some kind of mushroom ash tones. This is my client Justine, and this is what she came in with, and this is what she left with. Something more updated and beautiful and shiny with some beautiful beigey tones. The way I keep it dimensional is I make sure to do a veil like this top section right here, and I leave everything underneath of that to not be touched. And then what I do is I put in a few baby lights just around the perimeter, the base of the neck, just to update it, and I make sure that the money piece is updated as well. So this is more of a halo plus a veil. Her hair is quite fragile, so we're not going to go full strength over the old lightener. We're going to go full strength in her virgin hair, and then we're going to do some wet balayaging in the sink. So I can't wait for you guys to see all that. So I'm starting out with sectioning out that veil, and what I'm doing essentially with this is I'm going to put baby lights up in this veil area because I want her crown area to stay really soft as it grows out, but it does need some updated highlights in it. Then this whole middle section that I'm sectioning out right here, that's not getting touched. And the reason why I'm doing that is because she has an old balayage in there, so her ends don't need to be done. But that long middle section that's about 8 inches of root, we want to keep that dark so she has some dimension in her hair. And what's left here is at the bottom is going to get baby lit in a really, really soft way so that whenever she puts her hair up, she still has some really teeny tiny highlights that blend her hair. So I'm just going to show you guys how I do a couple of my baby lights here. I always like to back comb whenever I'm doing her hair because it back combs beautifully and it detangles easily. And this is a very small weave, and I still am feathering up for that really, really seamless blend look. And this will create a really, really nice contrast to her hair without being too much, because we don't want to have chunky foils underneath that she's going to have to maintain a lot. These foils only really get done once a year. As I'm working my way up this section, I'm taking angles and I'm making sure that what gets left out of the foil is more than what's actually in the foil. This will maintain that most of this hair is dark. And now I'm backcombing here, and you can see that I'm actually backcombing from the middle of the piece of hair. And what that's going to do is provide me with significant blend as well as soft blonding. If you want to do more blend, then all you have to do is backcomb from lower down on the hair. If you want more blonde, then you backcomb from higher up on the hair. And I totally realized I forgot to tell you guys my formulation today. So for what's in the bowl for when I'm actually doing my highlights is 20 volume and Blonde Me. And keep in mind, I am trying to stick to the darkest parts of her hair with my highlights. I'm trying to not really go over anything that has had too much bleaching done to it before. My client is half Chinese and half English Scottish, so she actually has very dark natural hair, but it lifts really easily and very quickly. So using a 20 volume is actually okay if you're going to be doing only a few foils like what I'm doing today, because she lifts so fast. Now I cut out the other side, but here is the last piece on each side where the back perimeter is, and this is how I did it. And I cut out the other one because you can't really see, but I am backcombing from lower down, and I'm doing just a teeny bit of highlights in that so that it blends really softly from the area that I'm highlighting to the area that I'm leaving alone. And I want to make sure it's a really soft blend so that it doesn't look like just like a chunk of blonde and then suddenly it's all dark. And even though I've backcombed, I am still using the side of my brush to feather up as much as I can to give a really, really nice soft blend, because then that way I don't have to do a drop root on the hair. Now I'm starting on the veil of her head. Now this is something actually right here that I would change next time I do this. This first piece, I feel like I actually highlighted it a little bit too close to the scalp. I think I should have actually had this first piece be a little further away so I could have had a softer transition between the areas of highlights and the areas without. Even though I'm backcombing and it still blends pretty well, that's just something I would change for the future. So make sure that whenever you have the first piece in any of your foils and there's an area that's not foiled right next to it, just have it with a softer blend, and the best way that you can do that is to keep the highlights further away from the scalp. I'm also kicking out the ends of the hair out of all the foils, as you've probably noticed, so that they don't accidentally get folded into the bleach and then get damaged. So I'm only really going to show a couple of pieces on how I'm foiling the top, because the whole thing's being done the same way. You guys don't need to watch me do 15 foils in a row that all look the same. I'm backcombing every single foil, and I am making sure to leave more of the hair out of the foil than what's going in. This piece looks a little bit chunky, but I promise it's gonna look really soft and blended. It's also nice to have some of them a little wider and some of them a little skinnier, so you get that little bit of dimension. For services like this, I do prefer to hand weave so I can choose where the blonde goes and where it doesn't go, versus using one of those foiling combs. And this is my last piece of this section going in. Now you can see that I've continued on in the same direction so that everything gets insulated by the same heat. And what I'm actually going to do too is, you'll see later when I'm doing the front face framing, is I'm going to push everything on top of these foils so they stay insulated as well. Now we're moving on to the sides, and what I like to do for the sides is, because it's that fine kind of softer baby hair, it really likes to show all of those little foil lines. So sometimes doing these on an angle and giving it a really soft weave really helps to blend any lines, because again, we're not dropping any kind of shadow root today. What you may notice here is that more of the hair is actually going into the foil than what's staying out of the foil. And that's so that she gets a really soft blonde look up in the front, because we want to give her a money piece, but we don't want it to be a solid chunky money piece. We really want it to grow out softly, so that's why we're still doing baby lights, but again, more of the hair is actually in the foil than what's out of the foil. I should also talk a little bit why we don't necessarily want to do a drop root on this client. Because her hair lifts so easily, but it lifts with so much stubborn orange and yellow tones, I find that it's a little bit risky to sometimes put on a root toner onto someone's head, because sometimes it can just budge that base a little bit. Like it can lift it, and when it lifts with a color like orange and yellow that's very hard to cover up, you don't really want to have a client's natural color lift and then have this line of demarcation that looks really orange and honestly not very good. And that can all happen from like the heat of the scalp and the toner being left on for its full time if it's on level. I've seen it happen once or twice before, and I just don't want to risk it with this client, because she wants that very natural look and wants to wear her hair for as long as humanly possible before getting her next balayage done. And a line of demarcation and that orange color is definitely going to prevent that from looking all natural. As I'm working up on my last piece, I make sure to stay further away from the scalp so that I have a more soft blend between the area of the money piece and the rest of the hair. Like what I wanted to do with my halo, I just forgot. Sorry, my veil, I just forgot to do that. Now here are the bangs and the money piece, and that's essentially what I'm finishing off with. I start by foiling everything forward towards the forehead, and then at the end you'll see that I'm going to flip everything back over onto those foils from the veil area. And the reason being is this front little piece lightens very quickly, and if it's sitting against the forehead, it's quite hot, so it'll process very fast. And all of the other pieces that I'm foiling on top of it are also going to get insulated well. The last piece that I put on is actually going to be exposed to the cool air that's in the salon, and it's not going to want to lift very fast. So how I fight that is I push everything the opposite direction. And it's okay to do that with this one, because we're not actually going that close to her scalp, because again, we want that soft blend near her root area. So this is a good little trick to get your foils to process a little faster. Here she is getting her foils pulled out. You can see she's still got a little bit of that yellow tone in there, but that's actually going to help us with our toner. It's going to help hold it in because it's around a level 7.5 on the toner scale. Then we are going to rinse her out and shampoo her and detangle her with our fingers a little bit before we start doing the wet balayage. What I have mixed in the bowl here for my wet balayage is I have Blonde Me with a little bit of Blonde Me clay and 20 volume. What that's going to do is just kind of break through that old toner that's been in her hair for a long time and just give it an extra half level to 1 level of lift. That's all we really want to do, because she wants to be just a little bit brighter where her old balayage is and have a little bit more blonding up near the front. I'm taking this section by section in little pieces that I know that I can handle and saturate easily, and I'm applying my bleach to any areas that do look a little bit too dark to be toned up with the toner that I'm planning on using. My client having long hair is actually very convenient for this because I can just lay it over the side of the sink, and that helps to keep it in place and out of the way from touching any of her virgin hair, because if it does touch her virgin hair, it's gonna lift it just a little bit, and that's actually called breaking the base, like what I was talking about earlier. And because she has that orangey yellow tone to her hair, if it only lifts half a level, she's just gonna have so much orange color in her hair, and it's not gonna be like a nice orange, it's gonna be very brassy looking. So you do wanna stay away from those higher up areas and from some low lights that go all the way through down to the ends of her hair. Depending on how much your client wants to lift and their previous damage in their hair, you can leave this on for a long time if you want. And you can also really customize the strength of how much lift you want to get in the hair. The water from washing her hair also helps to dilute and protect the hair a little bit from too much bleaching. I've actually had some clients before who have had very damaged hair and they've still wanted it a little bit blonder, so I've put on a more gentle formula of a wet balayage, and I've actually just left it on for 2 to 3 minutes, and it just helps to brighten up the ends of their previous blonde. Now I'm doing a little bit of hand blending, as you can see here. I'm actually just sweeping up using my fingers and my gloves to blend up a little bit of that lightener onto her previous highlights and just give it a really, really soft look. This prevents it from looking a little bit patchy if you've missed any areas where there's some old toner. After sitting for a few minutes, I'm rinsing her out, and once that's done, I'm ready to wash her with a little bit of conditioner and detangle her and bring her to the chair so I can tone her there, because we're going to be doing 2 different types of toner today. She's asked that I take her money piece out entirely and tone that with an actual lighter toner because she wants that to stand out a little bit more. So today I am using TBH for the money piece. I'm using 9-16, 8-51, and 7-16. This is all being mixed with Schwarzkopf Vibrance 6 volume lotion so that it sticks on her hair a little bit better, and I'm applying it to both sides of her money piece right here. And that's gonna sit about 20 minutes. And the reason why I chose the colors that I did is because they have a lot of ash tones in them, but they also have a little bit of chocolate, which is gonna give her a natural tone. And I do have a little bit of it left over in my bowl, so I'm going to show you what I do with some of my toner formulations, but I have a little bit left over. When I'm doing the rest of her hair, I've actually taken that leftover toner and I've mixed in more of the 7-16 and a bit of the 6-19. These are both very ashy tones in the TBH formula, and I've added more developer obviously for how much color I've added. And what this does is it takes the same tone as what I have and it just makes a darker version, because I don't want to have 2 entirely different looking toners, because then she's going to have a weird clash of some areas being warm and some areas being cool. We want it all to be the same tone, just different levels. I've also chosen to separate the areas so that they process very cleanly, and you can see the 2 little strands of her money piece on the side that are processing a little bit differently than the back. Now here she is, washed out, trimmed, blow dried and styled, and I think she looks fabulous. Sorry for my finger getting in the way here, but I really, really like this color on my client. I think it's a beautiful neutral tone. It has some ash tones in there as well. It's a little hard for the camera to pick up, but you're gonna see in another light right here that she has more of these kind of beigey, soft, cool tones. It's gorgeous. It's gonna last her a really long time, and it has a lot of that natural dimension in there, so it's very, very easy to grow out with lots of root. And over in this side of the salon, for whatever reason, this area always makes people look a little red. I think it's because of these, Edison ass looking bulbs that I have in this corner over here. They cast a bit of a red hue to hair, but I promise it's not red. And I really hope you guys enjoyed my video. Remember to like and subscribe and turn on notification bells. And please do remember to follow me on Instagram at Bobby Hair Studio and vancity.blonde. Thank you guys. Have a great night.